Wrestling friends, this podcast is brought to you by Spartan Combat. Spartan Combat is a wrestling clothing company who's doing a giveaway as we speak on Instagram. They're giving away 2 really sweet backpacks. Go to Spartan X Apparel and click on the post that has the 2 backpacks in it. You'll see all the information you need to register for the giveaway. That's Spartan X Apparel on Instagram. SPARTAN X APPAREL, doing a giveaway right now for 2 sweet book bags. All right, folks, let's get to the show.
Coach Miller one time was like, hey, it's 19 steps. It's 19 steps from my locker to when I get into the practice room. And those 19 steps, everything else is gone because that's my job. My job is to be focused here now, not be somewhere else.
We can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestled, because if you wrestled, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling. I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
You know, if I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if it gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast. This is your host, Ryan Warner. As always, we're presented by Spartan Combat. Go to SpartanCombat.com to shop Yanni D merchandise. Today's guest, ladies and gentlemen, is the great Doug Schwab, head coach at the University of Northern Iowa, Olympian, national champ for the Iowa Hawks back in 1999. Doug and I recorded this interview at the UNI wrestling room, so there's a bit of background noise. There's a fan going on, and near the end of the interview, some wrestlers come in the wrestling room to get practice started. So bear with us. You barely notice it, but I really enjoyed this conversation. Most of the talk is about Doug and his career at UNI, but then at the end, I selfishly kind of dovetail and start talking about TJ Williams and the Tony Davis documentary that I'm working on. As you know, we produce audio documentaries about 2 times a year, The Smiths being one of them, Slaying Satia being one of them, and our next one, which will be live in March/April, will be the Tony Davis audio documentary. Tony Davis is an Illinois legend, and he has one of the craziest up and down stories you're ever going to hear. But in 1999, at the NCAA tournament, Tony Davis and TJ Williams, club teammates, met in the NCAA finals. So Doug and I talk about that a little bit at the end, but a whole bunch of gold nuggets in this interview before then. Fan of the week goes to a couple recent Apple podcast reviews. Tommy John 42, 5-star review, my favorite podcast. TR Twins, another 5-star review, and just the words here, just so, it means so much. And I really appreciate it, how much you guys enjoy the show. A couple more here. Rich, CME, Toasty Evergreens, Austin Bayer, Arnie D-Man. Thank you all so much for leaving reviews. And if you're listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, give us a review, give us a rating. It helps bubble up this show to wrestling fans just like you. All right, folks, let's get to the interview with Doug Schwab. Peace! Well, Coach, I figured we could talk about half you and I coaching and current stuff, and then about half we'll switch over to...
Anything you want.
Cool. So let's talk about current state. We're in the season here. You guys are heading out to Florida in a couple days. One kid I've really been focusing on for you guys is it Ket Kaizen?
Parker, yeah.
Tell us about how his journey to UNI and what you've seen with him so far.
Just keep saying he's a workhorse, but he just continues to put more work in. It's funny because I was just thinking about him the other day because we do a little weekly show, and he was on. We always have an athlete come in, and I was like, remember when you first came in? Like he was like scared of getting tired, didn't think he was going to be in shape. And I'm like, you're going to be in shape. Don't worry. So just little things. And now it's not something he doesn't even think about, but just how much you grow and mature. And, I could tell you that, Lee saw me. He's like, this dude's going to be really good. And then you start seeing him get better and better. And man, from the start, we're like, man, we think this guy's going to be really good. And you continue to see him develop and mature. And man, he wants to be great. And he leads our team by being the last one in every dang day. Well, close. Gunderson's giving him a run for his money, but he's always doing a little bit more. I think he took to heart talk about, hey, 10 extra minutes a day, what that adds up to be. And he ends up doing a lot more than 10. But if you compound that over time, what that does, and we talk about inches and ounces, and he lives it. And just being a freshman, getting third in the country, I think how he competes, that's what catches a lot of people's eyes, because he takes a lot of risk. He goes underneath guys a lot. And that breaks out of the mold right now. I think everyone that's like, man, I love watching that guy. And I'm like, well, why do you love watching him? Well, he keeps attacking. He stays in there. And, it's like, so that when you start seeing a guy that kind of breaks the mold, and then you have a guy like that on your team, I think it raises the level for everyone. You start seeing other guys that are like, well, I told guys I'd grab on this guy's coattail, and I'm going to do what he does. And then if I can do more than him, I'm going to be in pretty damn good shape. But he's got out of his comfort zone just being a leader too, though. And talking and getting up in front of the groups, really not his thing, but he's realizing that, okay, man, if I want to take a next step too as a leader, I want to be uncomfortable. I want to grow in other ways. Like I could stay right here in my box and keep things very easy, but that's not what he wants to do. He wants to have a great team, and he wants to have this program be great. And it's very important to him. So, I don't know. I couldn't be more happy with the work that he's done. And, Ashgren, Max did a great job with him too, bringing him in. I've been very happy with the athletes that we've got from Ashgren, and just the long game. I mean, they play the long game. They're trying to get better at the sport. They love the sport. They're always trying to work and get better, and Parker embodies that as well as anybody. So,
what other kids have you seen from that academy come down to you guys?
Dejon Johnson's on our team right now. He went through Ashgren. I have my mind's mush right now.
That's okay. But a couple guys have come out.
Colin Rebuto was out there. We have a guy, Connor Thorpe, this year. Gunderson was part of it, and really like what they do and how they have their guys prepared for college. Like I said, guys are translating very well, and they fit pretty well. And I think you start finding certain places that maybe just philosophically how they go about things just mesh pretty well. You're going to have different technical things that everyone does, but for us, man, we just want to figure out how guys can score points and wrestle within their style. Not just, hey, you got to fit within this box. Like, there's a foundation from positions that I think have to be kind of across the board. But beyond that, then you let them figure that out, and you help guide them with it. But I don't know, I've been really happy with the guys that we've got from there and what they've added to our team.
And when you look at guys coming into college, you've seen a lot of classes come in. What are some of the big areas where high school kids are usually a little bit short coming in, so that if I'm a high school kid listening to this, I can make sure I'm on my game if I come to your program?
The intensity and duration of just the season, the focus of a practice room, because most guys, they've come into where they're coming from, they're probably been the best guy or close to the best guy. So getting challenged daily didn't happen a whole lot. So you can, I don't want to say take off practices, but you can get by without maybe your best or the highest level of focus or energy. And then, you got some guys that are in here, and, the older guys are like, well, I'm going to show this younger guy. I'm going to, heck, I was that guy a couple years ago, and I'm going to make sure that he understands that. But, I would say that just being able to, and our young guys are kind of getting into it a little bit right now, because they've probably been through about what the season would be, a high school season. And now you still have the second half of the season. So just getting their mind kind of wrapped around that, and that not getting overwhelmed by it. And these young guys have done a really, really dang good job. I've been very happy with what they've done. But bottom is usually always just a tough area. One, because guys maybe aren't as physically strong, and they haven't spent as much time on bottom. Hand fighting, being able to finish attacks, that's kind of across the board. But then I just think the energy and focus and being able to handle that kind of season, because you don't know if you've never been through it. But I think these guys are starting to be more prepared. Just won RTCs, so guys are being in the college room before. I just think there's better coaches out there too. We just talked about After you start going through all these clubs, and these guys are prepared very well coming in. So that helps, but I just don't think there's anything that can prepare you for the length, the intensity of practice of a season, of week to week, of every time you have to come in, you have to tee it up every time. And so that's the one thing I would tell these young guys is when you're coming in and practice and like you want to take off practice or I can kind of get away with this, don't allow that kind of creep in, because when you get into a college room, boy, you're going to get exposed hard. And I just think that's part of growing too, though. I don't know if you can really understand some of it till you go through it.
It's crazy how you said high school seasons, they're kind of at that point now, because you figure like October, November, December, they're thinking they're feeling good, but they still got the second half. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And I'm going to talk to our team today just about kind of how you utilize your time. And we've all been where like time goes like that, right? And you're like, oh, okay, that went so fast. Where was your mind at? I mean, you were probably engrossed. You're into it. You're excited about what you're doing. And then we've had times where my mom earlier used to say the seconds are minutes, the minutes are hours, and the hours are days, and we've all, I think when you want to be somewhere else, then that's, so we're trying to keep guys present, keep them focused. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, being able to not get too caught up into some of those other things, just being here right now. And that's a skill too that you have to learn how to be able to do. I mean, that's just to me, a life skill that you have to be able to do. And if we can do it in here under a lot of stress, then I think you should be able to do that in your everyday life too.
I was just watching a documentary on Tom Brady. I know you're a Red Sox guy. They're big on block out the noise. And you think about any noise we have in wrestling is minimal compared to what they get with the public scrutiny, but it's like that's something I've been thinking about all week. Like if you just block out the noise and stay focused.
Distractions. I mean, I didn't grow up with the social media, the phone, those things that can get you, because you get in the comparison so quick, and being able to stay kind of focused in what you ever seen For Love of the Game. It makes you think clear the mechanism, it's like just it's gone. And that's, to me, if you can do that, we give some guys some things to be able to. For me, and I remember Coach Miller one time was like, hey, it's 19 steps. It's 19 steps from my locker to when I get into the practice room. And those 19 steps, everything else is gone, because that's my job. My job is to be focused here now, not be somewhere else. I got to be able to give my best to my team. And think about that every time when I walk in, like everything else, because we're human too, right? We have some other things that can want to pull us, or we can be distracted, but that's not setting the example, but two, that's not my job. My job is to be here in the now and displaying to these guys what that is. And yeah, we're all going to have things that are going to want to pull at us, but like you said, and block that noise. And that's a skill too. Yeah.
And you think about, I was listening to our first conversation. One of the areas I wanted to dig a little bit deeper on was your run to a world team in 2007. And you think about ounces and inches compounded from when you get out of high school all the way through to 2007. You're doing that on the daily for years. Tell me about your run to the world team in 2007, because we didn't get into all the details last time.
Well, heck, I got seventh at the Open, and I think I was supposed to wrestle maybe Jesse Jansen for 7th and 8th, and at that time it was like if you weren't top 7, you didn't even get to go. You had to go. But he didn't have wrestling anyway. I think I wrestled in the mini tournament. They had a mini tournament to even get into the tournament, because they only seeded like the top 8 and all that stuff. So I was pissed off just going in, because I'd been 3rd, 4th, 5th. I'd been in there and fairly consistent. Obviously hadn't been the top 1 or 2 guys, but I don't think they even seeded me. And I'm like, okay. And then then I make it through that tournament. I actually got beat by Tian Ware in that tournament. I got through that tournament. I placed 7th, and then. The Open, I think I started with maybe Tian Ware, then I wrestled Lawrence, Esposito, Freire, and just, you put a day together. And that, like I said, I think that had been a long time coming. I beat all those guys at one time, but I hadn't beat them together. And, that day really, I probably about as underdog as you could get, in that situation. And there was not a single person other than myself and my coach and that really thought, oh, this guy's got a chance, because I think a lot of people were like, well, what the hell are you doing? Hey, you've been on this is your 5th or 6th year here. You haven't broke through, even had some people close to me like, maybe. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go out on my time. What I'm saying? It's not, that's not something you deciding and you telling me isn't, and anything is it pisses me off more. Like, I'll show you. But part of that is okay, it had to make some adjustments too in training, and had been at Virginia Tech, then we came back to Iowa. So there was other things that were going on. I think, those things got in line. Had Zadok, had some other workout partners I think that helped, and just being consistent. It's like, and I believed in the breakthrough was going to come for a long time, and you kind of put those guys kind of together and find a way to win. And then I think I lost the first match to Bono, and then you win the next two, and you're on the dang world team, and I think everyone's like, I didn't know. I didn't think this guy would put that together. Even national team coaches are like, really surprised you're here. I'm like, well, okay. I understand, but also then my job is to make it so you're not surprised moving forward. I don't know, I just remember that day, and like you won the first match. I said that I would say the last time I wrestled where he beat me. I think the last time that Lawrence wrestled me beat me. Maybe even the last time all those guys that kind of beat me, and just you put a real good day together. And then to me it was like, heck, if I'm here in the finals, I better win or figure out a way to win this damn thing, or this Bono he's gonna have a war on his hands. And I could tell you at the end of the first match, I remember because I had him in tripod, both his hands are out of the circle, and they didn't give me a point. And there's no way it should not have been a point. And then they blew me up, and then he ended up winning the period. Boom, the match was done. And I remember asking the referee, I'm like, I said, did you already decide this? You already given it to Bono, because I want to know, because that means I'm going to have to, I can't leave it even close. He's like, I gave you the point. I'm like, there's no way that shouldn't have been a point, or why did you blow me up? I said, you should give me a chance to finish. And he's like, the other ones didn't. And so to me, I'm like, I like that little bit of chip on your shoulder, underdog. Okay, yeah, you want to try to take it away from me, and that's a little bit of the school that I came from. I don't know, that's a big nutshell.
And you'd have people tell you like, hey, Doug, maybe it's time to try something else, and
just be done with your wrestling career. Just move into coaching. Kind of call it that, and it's like you telling me that doesn't. It actually makes me go the other way. Maybe I'm kind of a goofy that way, but I'm going to decide that on my own time. Like if I thought it was time, then I would have said it's time. And man, was there some trips and there's some times where you're like, oh man, what the hell am I doing? Am I going to break through ever? That's part of the faith and trust in yourself and your coaches and the people that you're around, that it's not always about getting, everyone wants to have that gold medal draped around their neck and the flag raised and the national anthem played. But to me, it's more the pursuit of that and in not giving in. I tell our guys all the time, and talk about, you got something you want, you got a dream that you're holding on to. Nobody can take that away. Nobody. Only I decide to give that away, and that's going to be on my time. So yeah. So even then, it was like, what the hell are you guys talking about? And that's okay. They're trying to look after me a little bit, but also I think as a competitor, then I think when your time's done, and we always see these competitors, I think, hang on too long, and like, hey, move them along, but they got to come at peace with that too. So yeah, you definitely had that, which is, it's okay, but I think it even makes it even better, because I didn't give up on myself.
And throughout that time, you didn't lose the faith. If you're looking back now, like, was there moments where you almost did, or the whole time were you ironclad in your belief?
Oh, no, man, you're human. Everyone's like, everyone, our revisionist history kind of, it's always like, I did this right, and I did all these and that stuff. I try to be, I'm honest as possible. Like, I remember still sitting in Cuba one time. I was down in a tournament and actually got beat by Garzone, he was really good, and then lost to Bono. And I remember Lee Fullhart was my roommate. And I remember got done with the tournament, and I'm laying in the bed, and I'm just like, he could just tell I was feeling sorry for myself. And I remember he's like, kind of like, what in the hell are you doing? And sometimes you need that slap in the face. You need that guy he's just honest with you. Like, what the hell are you doing, man? Yeah, you lost in the tournament. So what, are you going to keep chasing or not? And so then I got my ass up, and and you had things that happened throughout it, but I don't know. I trust in myself, and man, did I ever get what I wanted? No, I didn't. I never got totally where I wanted. I got I sure in hell got closer than I would have gotten if I would have turned around at some of those points, obviously some of those things would have never happened. That breakthrough would have never happened. And so that's why I keep telling guys, just keep knocking, man, keep knocking. I don't know when it's going to come. It may never come. But at least when you look back, the things that you learned through this and the grit, the fortitude, the belief you had in yourself, hopefully that can translate into everything you do, right? And that, man, I know when I go out in the real world, I will work harder and do more and put more in than almost any other human being in the world. So I know that will separate me in anything that I do, not just wrestling. You know, obviously this is incredibly competitive, but guys got to understand that everything that we do in the world is competitive. You know, so if you just think you're going to show up, but there were absolutely, you know, there was a lot of times.
Yeah.
I still remember when the National Open and getting the octagon for the first time, and just those are things that you're certainly proud of. But I'm more proud of that when it comes back to it that I never gave up on myself.
Yeah, I love that. You think back to all those times with your brother Mark, you know, running on Christmas. I mean, that was ingrained in you from an early age. Talk us. So you go to the World Championships in 2007, 5th place, make the Olympics in 2008. Didn't get what you wanted. Talk us through like the day after the Olympics to getting the UNI job and kind of where you were at mentally processing that event.
Well, you know, we stayed in the Olympics. I was there because we stayed till the closing ceremony. So we were there and with my wife, and we went and saw some things and we're around, and you know, you got to have that experience a little bit, but I don't know if I ever really soaked it in, you know, or really enjoyed it, because so much you're thinking about what you didn't get, because everything was hey man, I want to make sure, I want to get this gold medal. I want to get it. I'm gonna go home with something, and you don't, and you're kind of like, that is, you know, it's just a letdown. And you think that I think anytime you're a competitor, you feel like you let people down, because it was incredible. And you've been around and you start to see the Olympics, how much it resonates with the whole country, the whole world. It's not like World Championships. Yeah, it's a big deal, but once you got to Olympics, it's everybody. Everyone in the world's like, their eyes are on it. They're thinking about it. It's every 4 years. And as a kid, you know, that is a pinnacle of our sport. It just is. And, you know, it's something that you built up. And then, you know, I got home, and man, I'll tell you, I felt sorry for myself for a long time. Didn't do a very good job. You know, so if I was my athlete right now and I saw my athlete doing that, you know what, I'll give you a little bit of time, but it's not going to drag on. Because either you're going to move forward with your coaching, you're going to move forward with your wrestling, you're going to move forward with life, like hanging on to that and feeling sorry for yourself. And a little bit is the culture where I was at, though. I mean, you had to grieve. You had to mourn losses. If you didn't, then what the hell's wrong with you? Something's wrong with you. What are you talking about? You didn't take it that hard? So it was almost like you almost had to play it up even more. And to me now, I've learned, I'm still trying to find that right balance, because it should hurt, man. You put a lot of time into something. I'm not saying that it should just be dismissed. You know, I mean, it is painful, but when it starts to bleed into everything else and it impacts other things in your life, I think that's when it gets to be unhealthy. But I think we're always flirting that line of being healthy and unhealthy, though, or what some people deem unhealthy. Like, if you want to be great at something, there really is a singular, almost obsessive focus to it. Just because when you're trying to go to the nth degree, you know, and heck, even college wrestling, I think we're 1%, you know, and then we're talking about, okay, I'm going to be an Olympian, or I'm going to be, even within our country, being on an Olympic team is pretty damn hard when you got six freestyle spots, 6 women's spots, that's 18 potentially if everyone qualifies. So, I guess to go back, I didn't do a very good job. Felt sorry for myself for a long time, you know, because I was focused on what I didn't get. And to me, I got to be able to move forward and got to be able to be a better example for my team too, from our guys. And like I said, it's just a little bit like you had to mourn your loss. You had to kind of go off on your own, and you dig a hole, and which that's not healthy either. I've done it. And that's what I try to tell our guys. Like, there's a way that it can hurt, and you can use it as a positive. And there's a way that you can grieve, so to speak, and it can be a negative thing. And you just don't move forward, and you keep holding on to it. Like, how do you use it where it can be something, can be a benefit? And that's what I've really tried to figure out as a coach. How can I use that to be more of a benefit? And how can I find balance, because there's really no balance to being great. So, we say these things, and I just know I learned a valuable lesson as far as, okay, because then I'm like, should I compete? Should I not compete? And then I'm kind of half-hearted into competing, and that's no good for anybody. I mean, I would never tell my athlete to be half-hearted. And looking back, it was, but in the time, it's like you're thinking that, oh, no, you're good. And that's not an excuse for my losses. That's on me. That is not on anyone else. It's not on my coaches. It's on me not being able to recognize those things. Or just, hey, man, I need to take a break. Or, hey, I'm done with it. Because then when I took the job, it's like, that was being the natural time to, there's no way that you can do both well. It's not even, anyone that could say they could be a head coach and compete and do it well, that's not possible. You're cheating one or the other. And I think Coleman maybe tried to do it for a little while, and it's just too damn hard.
That's what John Smith told me when he had to coach in '92.
That's right. Yeah, you listen to that.
He's like, I was shortchanging everybody, and because of that, I wasn't feeling confident. I was feeling guilty. We've all felt guilty because you're not putting in a full amount of work. Maybe someone like you hasn't, but a lot of people have, and it's like, what was the turning point for you to get out of that depressive state to being able to interview for a D1 job at UNI?
Well, I think it goes back to even, I remember Terry Brands one time is like, kind of, when are you going to stop pouting about this? Like, what the hell? And I need that. Like to me, I need a slap in the face sometimes. What the hell are you doing? It is not doing me any good. It's not doing my teammate any good. It's not doing anyone, my wife, anybody. It's not doing them any good. Me going back, okay, I can learn from it. Now, how am I going to use it? Am I going to hold on to it and feel sorry for myself? Or am I, and that kind of got me to okay, well, I need to get my ass moving. I can't keep living in the past. Like I would tell my athlete. And then he said, I kept wrestling, but I don't know, I needed to evolve, and I didn't evolve. I thought I could continue to kind of do the same thing, and the results would get better. And that's crazy. That's silly. That's silly on my part. So I've learned a lot as a competitor, and it can help me as a coach and reflecting back on those things. But, it got to where, the competing's winding down. And there's not a ton of head coaching jobs. We're still maybe under 80. I know we've added a few teams, but you got 80 Division I jobs. This one came open. It's in the state of Iowa. I love being in the state of Iowa. Obviously, I have connections to this place. And to me, it was like, okay, man, that's a step. That's what I want to do. I'm ready to be, I feel like I was ready. And I don't know if you're ever ready. It's kind of like having a kid. You just get thrown into it and you figure things out and you get ready as you go. But I was ready for a new challenge, and I was ready to grow in different ways. Because being assistant coach, you always have a buffer a little bit. You always have the head coach. You can always defer to them, and you can always kind of be in the back a little bit. Head coach, you don't have that. Well, you do, but then I think it impacts your team. It hurts. So you got to be willing to. And man, I'm still learning and growing and still trying to figure things out. And I've taken things from the places I've been, and I'll just keep trying to improve and get better. But
was this the first job you interviewed for? Head coaching job?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is the only one you've ever interviewed for.
Yeah.
Amazing. What was some of the big learnings?
Well, I did interview for another one, but that was beyond. But
yeah.
What was it like?
They're just the big learnings, coming into it, maybe a year into it, you're like, man, if I would have known this, and this, I would do this differently. Was there anything that jumped out?
I think, well, okay, the two of the other guys that interviewed, I think they'd been head coaches already. They came in probably a little bit more polished. They had these big plans in front of them, and they're handing packets out, and you need to be planning, and absolutely, you do. You need to be planned and prepared, but there's something to be said for passion and belief in this area. I grew up here. I grew up an hour from here. I was raised in this gym. So there's a lot of connections there, and wrestling in the state of Iowa is important to a lot of people. So you start having those connections, and I think that helps with recruiting. It helps with just support. It helps with everything. But if I could go back, I would probably show them much more of a plan of kind of how I would go about things, but I was just me. Like, you're asking me questions and I'm just like, hey, this is who I am. Like, I'm just being honest about, hey, I'm going to learn things as I go. Am I going to make mistakes? Absolutely. But do I believe in our athletes and that we can win here and we can win at the highest level? I do, 100%. And I remember meeting with the team, and actually met in here. And the first thing I did is, I had a coat and tie on, and I'm like, the first thing I did is like, I took that damn thing off and put it off and took my jacket off, and was like, that's not really me. This is me, and I want you guys to know that. And so I probably wasn't very polished, when it comes down to it. It depends on what the AD's looking for. I know I had some people that backed me and were behind me and certainly helped me get this job. I don't know if I'd have got the opportunity, but hopefully when they look back and, the AD that was here at the time, Troy, looks back and is like, and the committee's like, damn, we ended up being the right call.
Well, I look at 2014, I think it's like 4 or 5 years into it for you. You guys go undefeated in dual meets, put 3 on the big board, Peters,
Cologne, Laser. Yeah.
Laser, yeah. That had to be a breakout year for, a lot of years coming, but had to be a breakout year for the program.
Yeah, it was for sure. Just from, the first few years we had guys close, around 8 guys, and then, bone loader place. And then, you start getting where you get multiple guys placing, and that becomes, it's never commonplace. It's never easy, but it just becomes like, that's what guys, the tradition, they start coming in, I can win here. And those expectations are set. And you've been around, I know you've been around programs, you talk with those guys and you see programs that are trying to build and that they have a tradition already. They don't just rely on that tradition, but guys come in fully believing, trusting. You know what I mean? So having an national champion a few years ago, that helped everyone else, to me, behind him, like, believe it. Doesn't make it easier, but it's like, man, I can do it here too. I just watched this guy do it. He was my teammate, and I saw what he did. And, I think that's where you start having those footsteps, because we've kind of look at 84, because people ask about, we'll look at 84, all these years. Like, I think the guy behind is like, well, he did this and this. The next guy in line, I'm going to do that too. I'm going to raise the ante. And I think that's what we've had a little bit, but,
that's a big year though.
Yeah, that was a huge year for our team, and just heck, that we can be consistent. We can be consistent. We are one of the better teams. You have to recognize, because I think we went down to Oklahoma and that year, and I think they beat Oklahoma State early in the year, and maybe they were 3rd or 4th in the country, and went down and beat them, and so there was a lot of things to build off of, and now we just got to get back to that and even raise that level. But
yeah. We think about, when guys come in, there's always got to be someone to do it first. And, for you guys, it was Foster. But even going back to 2000, Tony Davis, first since 63. And Coach Manning says, when he came in, he was like the guy who came in that just expected to win right away, and it raised everyone else's level. Because he wasn't going just to like qualify and get some experience. He was going to win.
Yeah. And that does rub off, and so does the other way. Like, we just want to be part of it. Oh, we're happy to be here. And I'm not saying that that's not an accomplishment to be there, but if we're going to be there, we might as well try to get more. We can believe or not believe, I think it takes about the same amount of energy. So it's just where your focus lies. But knowing Tony and hearing about him and being able to compete with him, I can see that. It was a guy like, talking about I'm going to win. He said he's won all the way up. Why would it be any different? Just because I'm at college, I know it's going to be a little bit tougher, man, but I've won at every level. I'm going to win at this level too. I think you kind of saw that, and knowing him a little bit through the Williams brothers, those guys did a whole lot of winning for a long time, and they didn't have a whole lot, but they had each other, man, and they could scrap up and down. I get to roll with TJ a whole bunch, man. That's one of the better guys that I've ever got to put my hands on. I got to work out with Tony a few times. One of the more explosive guys that I've ever wrestled and worked out with. And those guys, they make you better, because you're like, man, you feel that, and you're like, man, I'm going to have to either figure out how to not let that happen, or I'm going to have to be able to raise my pace, or just your speed has to increase. I think it's like a fastball. Like a fastball, you start seeing that thing, and then it's 90, but all of a sudden it's 100. It takes a little bit to catch up, but once you feel that, then you can start to catch up to it. So I don't know. I always love being able to wrestle and compete with those guys just because they'd raise your level and made it better. But things I've heard about Tony, heck, that was, he said 2000, and we had a big gap, but he had a big gap too in between Division I champs. Heck, he got second the year before and then win. But I mean, he had a heck of a college career,
You think about, two-time JUCO champ, finalist as a junior, champ as a senior, no red shirt. Like, that's a rare breed. That's incredible. And to be able to consistently perform at the high level, because the skill was there, the wrestling talent was there, conditioning was mostly there, but just the mind to be there every time is like special.
Yeah, well, anyone can stay on top for a long time. We were talking about Tom Brady, just that they can sustain that success. What they do, and I don't think they ever take it for granted, though. It's like they continue to evolve and work and build, and not like, I'm here, I've made it, and then okay, yeah, well, this guy's running too, but I'm just going to keep running faster and stay ahead of him.
So what was it? Go ahead. Sorry.
So no, I mean that guy. They said he won all the way up, and becomes an expectation. Like for yourself, like I can win, and then when you do the work with it, then you can keep that gap. But it's so dang competitive, man. When you can stay at that high level for that long, you always try to kind of key into those guys and what the heck is this guy doing? Because he's being able to keep it at that kind of level for that long. What's he doing? And I think, if we go back to talk about, and I'm thinking about a guy like Burroughs, I mean, I think he's really elevated everyone's game though in the U.S. just from what's it like to be a real pro.
Right. I mean, you think about that. It's like he's the epitome of it.
And John, I'm saying John before, but I'm saying right now, like, man, that he's done it as well as anybody, and to do it for that long.
And to come back after having your heart broke at the 2021 Olympic trials, that had to be such a win for him to get back on the team and win this year. And just going back to some of your early days with TJ, were you at Iowa when he came in?
Yeah, yep. We're same age. So he went to JUCO, he redshirted, then he came in his sophomore year. I was 41, he's 49, and we ended up winning national titles 41, 49 that year. But I just remember him coming in and, man, the work ethic, like he came in to prove a point. I'm here for a reason. I'm going to win everything. And he won everything that year. And it didn't matter. And I'll tell you, I don't know if there's anybody faster. Like a sprint lap, if he wanted to win a sprint lap, he could win every damn sprint lap. And I remember him coming in and I'm like, whoa. And he had a look in his eye too. Like it was hardcore. I mean, when he came in that first year, it was like, I'm here to prove something to everybody, that I'm the best guy in the country. And you know what? And he did. And that was like, I just remember when he came in, and we got to roll some. I mean, just so quick, explosive, great. I mean, great gas tank too. We've been talking about a switch because we've been one of the most incredible switches. He did do it to everybody. But that's what I really remember that first year. Because I prided myself, like I'm gonna outwork everybody. I'm gonna be the last one in here. I'm gonna win this sprint. I'm gonna do these things, all that stuff. And man, he was right there for all of it. And it was actually pretty awesome because it helped raise my level too.
What did it feel like to wrestle?
Quick, strong, explosive, good snaps to angles really well, good reattacks. Couldn't let him have too much space. But he gets stung. You get stung some early. He's snapping around corner real well. Just really, really solid everywhere. You wrestle. Got to be able to put my hands on a lot of guys, which has been pretty fun. But thinking about getting to work out and train with him, it was fun because it was a real challenge, man. Because I was probably going to get scored on quite a bit early, and then hey, you're going to try to chip away. And like I said, just match that. And not that you can match the speed, but then I have to be able to get ahead of it, or I got to keep better position, or there's certain things that I have to do that make me have to raise my level, or I'm gonna get my ass kicked every day. And so you start figuring out how to get your ass kicked a little bit less.
Can't stand in front of that guy, I imagine, right?
No,
man,
not at all.
So going into the '99 NCAA tournament, do you remember where that one was held?
Yeah, Penn State. Yep.
And tell us about, did you know anything about Tony Davis before that tournament?
Well, I mean, being in the state of Iowa, we wrestled UNI. We saw them in events. I mean, so you know a little bit, but I don't know, paid attention as much as maybe you guys do now. Just because, I mean, like I said, social media, your phone, rankings, and I mean, you're aware of it. And so anyone says they're not aware of it, they're full of it. But how much they're aware of it, I think it's just more now. I mean, so you're able to see guys more, but knowing, like I said, knowing TJ, and then, you know, those guys wrestled in the finals together. They went to the same club, which is, I mean, that's incredible though. You're raised in a club, and you guys are going to compete against each other at the national tournament. I mean, how cool is that for that club? But also, you know, for them a little bit where that's incredible, because they probably thought about that growing up, and then it happened. But also a little bit bittersweet because, you know, I mean, that's like one of my dang brothers there, you know, and I got to wrestle him for a national title. So I know that wasn't an easy match for those guys, but you know, that's the way it goes sometimes.
Got to rip his heart out. That's just someone's going to have their heart ripped out. And you think about, if you had two kids from the same kids club wrestle in any round at the NCAA tournament, it'd be unreal, right? Just like the chances of being at the same weight, but then to get there, to make it through Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and those weight classes back then were just ridiculous. Like guys like Freyer weren't even sniffing the podium. You know, you had Lawrence in there a little bit later. So for them to make it through that and get to the finals is like crazy. And just before we get to that match, talk a little bit about just how much of a grind and how tough that NCAA tournament is mentally for guys to get through.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And I tell you, because I talked to the team the other week, and because you got kind of always get in coaching mode and trying to learn from the things, but you know, we wrestled a heck of a meet against Missouri, just focus, effort, energy. And I'm like, okay, you win the first round of nationals. What's that get you? It gets you the second round. It doesn't get, you have to be able to do that multiple times. You have to be able to do that really 5 times. If you want to win a national title, you got to be able to do that 5 times. So, I think that goes back to a little bit of how you train too. Not a little bit, a lot of how you train, and not being, I guess, surprised by any of it. Like kind of expecting to be there, not taking it for granted, but just, man, every round to me is like I'm just ramping back up. And I just believed I was going to win. You had people around you that, I mean, that was a really tight team race too. It came down to the final match. I think if Lesnar would have won, then Minnesota would have won. So, you know, I mean, it was that, but it was also like, this is what I'm here for. This is exactly why I came to this place. This is what I believed would happen. I saw these guys all in front of me do it. And now I'm here, and I'm going to take advantage of it too. I just knew I was prepared.
What feelings does it evoke, just to go back now as a coach, when you go into that tournament and you get there Thursday morning? I mean, what does it feel like to be there on the floor?
I mean, you get some goosebumps. You're excited. I'm excited because as a competitor, I mean, I think every competitor, like one time we'd love to be able to go back one time, especially with where your mind's at right now. If you could put some of that into your guys, and that's really what you're trying to do. But I think it's just, man, 3 of the funnest days. It's 3 of the most heart-wrenching days, but also the culmination of your season, culmination of your work. And obviously we're more than our national tournament and whatever we land on the podium or don't land on the podium, but that is a culmination of that work and something guys have thought about maybe for years and years and years. So to me, it's take a deep breath, relax, and let's enjoy this opportunity, man. And then I get 420 seconds. I'm going to take advantage of that 420 seconds, and then everything else. And I kind of say kind of like a meter, you know, like when we're on, that meter's on. We get into that arena and we're ready to wrestle, that meter's on. As soon as we cool down, we're back off. Boom, it's back off, and that's it. And then we're back to it. And then just being able to do that. And I think that's a skill. I keep saying things are skills, but anyone says that some of these guys, you know, some these great athletes are great because they just were born with it, is BS. Like, dude, maybe there's some things absolutely that they have in them, but man, they've worked for it and they've honed those skills. I mean, you're talking about Tom Brady. He's still on top of he's still as good as anybody. And you think it's because he's continued to build and evolve, and you see his training ethic and how he goes about things, and that he doesn't let anything slide.
The one word I found with every champion is consistency. Like, it's a consistent approach every day, no matter what they're doing, like any facet of their life. It's all focused around their goal, and it's consistent every day. And like, if you just do that with full effort, not just, but if you do it with full effort every day, eventually you're going to get where you're at. But that's the hardest thing, right? Because sometimes you wake up, maybe your girlfriend did something, maybe you had some family situation, all kinds of distractions can come up. But only the real champions can block out the noise, as we were saying, and get it done.
And so, you know, that NCAA tournament's it's life in an incubator, you know, like a 3-day, like all these distractions, all these other things that you can let, all these anxieties and fears that you can let come in, or can you just focus on what is right in front of you? That is it. Even, you know, you look at a bracket, like it's what's right in front of me. It's this match right here. Nothing, because everyone kind of prognosticates and they'll play out a little bit. It's really just, can I just stay focused? And that's the same thing you're talking about in here. Can I do that in here? Can I do that in my everyday life? Can I be consistent with it? Now, do I get thrown off course as soon as it's harder than I thought it was going to be? Or I get beat? Or, oh shit, coach did not say it was going to be this hard. You know?
Yeah.
And it is. And I try to never make any try
false
to always
promises.
Be very clear with our guys that it is going to be hard. Don't ever expect it to not be hard. But if you've made the choice, then the seconds aren't minutes, and the minutes aren't hours, and the hours aren't freaking days. You know, you enjoy because you know what you're becoming through the process.
What do you remember about Tony and TJ in their match that finals that year?
Well, you know, you get done with your match and you feel pretty good about winning a national title, but also I think that put us, I want to say that might have put us up by 2 points. You know, so that swung us back ahead in the national championships. Put us ahead of Minnesota by 2, and then, you know, TJ were like, hey, he needs to win, because I think Minnesota still had 3 coming in the finals. We had 1 head-to-head, but I still remember him hitting with the double leg, and Tony almost kind of jumped over top of it, and he finished it. And that was really, I think, maybe the one score of the match that you had the whole time. But I think I was still probably thinking a little bit about, man, I just won. But also then, you know, to me, being a great teammate is like, it's like, hey, we need to get anything we do for this guy. I mean, at that point, there's not a whole lot you can do for your teammate other than cheer and be excited. And you know, we actually had a couple of those. I mean, the next year too, me and TJ we both got third that year. We were both national champs. The next year we both got third, and we're sitting and watching Juergens have to win a match, and then I think Pritzloff beat Heskett, and I mean, you know, it was like two years in a row. It's one match. They win one match. It's national title for the other team. So I mean, that was pretty cool to be a part of too, though. You know, just knowing that you had an impact on a national title race too. Not just your national title didn't just win it for you; it helped win it for your team.
When just not being in the finals again just makes you realize how rare and how special it is to be there. You know, and so you're there, and you're like, man, that is just like such a special moment to be there.
It sucks sitting and watching. I can tell you that. I mean, even it's what every year, man. I'm sitting up in the stands watching. I'm like, man, I didn't want to be. You know, I want to let's have guys out there the next year, and then you do everything you can to make sure that happens. And the next year, then you do it again, then you do it again, you do it again, and I don't know. It's never fun sitting and watching. I mean, but you learn watching, and you just ingrain certain things in your head, like, okay, man, I'm not going to be sitting here next year. But I guess, what am I going to do between now and then that's going to make it so I'm not sitting up there on Saturday night?
And so the next year, TJ goes up, Mike Zadek steps in the lineup.
Yep, that was 2000, yep.
And UNI actually wrestles a duel at Carver. So early that year, UNI that year had a crazy schedule. Manning was like insane. But it was Minnesota, at Iowa, and then he wrestled a bunch of Big Ten schools. But you guys go to Iowa. You and I went to Iowa. You're on the team. And the Iowa newspaper wrote an early season tune-up for Iowa. They're expected to win 9 or 10 matches. And the Panthers actually came down and fought and won a couple matches. And Tony and Zadek was a pretty heated bout. I don't know if you have any memories of that duel, but
oh man, I got to think about it. I mean, usually I can kind of go back into thinking about kind of matches and duels and how kind of things went. Do
you even remember them coming down at all? Or
I do. Yeah, I mean, I do remember, and I kind of remember their match being back and forth. Well, and even that year, like Mike, heck, we wrestled off still. We still wrestled off. I won a national title, and Mike still wrestled me off at 41. Then I beat him, and Jimmy's kind of like, we're not doing this all year because we did it all year the year before. And so he ended up going up to 49. I stayed down at 41.
What kind of wrestler was Zedek?
Man, brawl. I mean, just good head position. Brawl is really hard to move. I mean, he's got he's kind of got that round back and shoulders, and I mean, he's not an easy guy to move. Really good pushing off elbow, running through. Just remember, he was really hard to get to and score on, but got to his legs, he had a pretty good chance, but getting to his legs was not easy. And then we had some heated bouts. You know, I mean, and the thing is now we're good friends. Heck, 2 summers ago, stayed at his house, took my family out there. Heck, we're having dinner with his family, and I'm thinking, 20 years ago, I was like, I think they would have buried me in this dang mountain other than have me here for dinner. But that's part of being a competitor, but it's also part of growing and learning and like having a mutual respect for each other. And Mike made me better. I mean, in that year, I'm telling you, I don't know if in 99, I don't know if I'm a national champion without having that guy in that room every day pushing me.
And how do you compare Zadek's style versus the TJ Williams style?
I mean, TJ probably snap a little more, snap and follow, a little bit more level change, just explosive, but they're both pretty dang explosive. Different. I wrestled Mike a little bit more as we got later in our careers too. But I don't know, it's always fun wrestling with some of the better guys though. You learn from them and you get better, and like, hey man, if I got beat today in practice, so what? You know, but I think we all felt like no matter what, when we went through that room, when we were battling with each other, when we went out in competition, I don't say it was easier, but it's like, holy cow, man, look at these guys that I'm training with every day. Like, I think I'm ready to go.
Yeah. And you mentioned you were friends with Zadek on a personal level. What kind? This is the last question: are you friends with TJ on a personal level? And what kind of person is TJ?
Yeah, we keep up with one another. You know, obviously his son, and you know he's healthy now, doing well. He's in mission. You know, I started thinking about, man, I got kids about his age, man. How my boys are going through that. Whew. You know, so I mean, part of, you know, kind of just checking in, how's things going, how you doing, just because you know, one, you care about your teammate, put time together, and heck, man, you got a young kid that's hurting, man, and I know if that was my son, man, I would do anything to take that away, and I'm sure he felt the same way, and I know he did. So just checking in, and hey, we care about you, man. Anything we can do, even though we're 5 hours away, if there's some way we can help. And I think we actually had him be a captain for one of our matches, and you know, we raised some money for him and did some things just to any way that we can help. I mean, that's one thing that's, to me, the wrestling community it's pretty incredible, and just the outreach, how much that wrestlers will help wrestlers and support wrestlers, and just appreciation that we have for each other. And hey, yeah, here's the thing is, can we do this and clash and battle, and then as soon as we clash and battle, then we should be able to put our arms around each other too after. And then, you know, do I want a guy hugging me every time after if he beat me? I don't know. But I also know that, man, should have a healthy respect for them, because I know for them to be able to do that to me or to beat me, what they would have had to done to go through that. And I think as a sport, just any way that we can show that appreciation. I just think people in general, I mean, you've been around the sport, and I think you start to see it more, even the guys that go out and they go out in business, or they go out in life, and people we have a reputation, but I think sometimes it can waver on a negative reputation, and it's not negative at all. It's just, hey, we're very focused. Like, okay, maybe we don't take a bunch of BS. You know what? Maybe we're not just going to be, you know, some things that I think the world needs more of, that some people get rubbed wrong with. And now, does that mean everyone's always on the right? I'm not saying that either. But I'm saying that some of the things that this sport instills, we are missing in our country and our world right now, and we need more of it.
And when you're not around wrestlers, it's like a weird feeling sometimes, right? If you ever go to like a friends gathering or like an event, it's just like normal people there, and they're not like killers, and you're like, God, it's just different. You know, I remember I started my first sales job, and my boss, like a month in, he's like, hey, bro, no one likes you. And I'm like, because I was coming in savage mode, headphones on, and I learned to lighten up, and I think we can lighten up a little bit in wrestling. We don't have to be hard asses, but there's a level of intensity, though, that you're talking about that's important.
Just a level of work and consistency, and that we expect out of, like, and can we find a balance? I mean, I feel like I can be pretty lighthearted and I'm joking, and the next thing I'm like, you know, I'm like there, and sometimes I think team's not sure. They're like, is he joking or is he? And I kind of like that a little bit, but you got to be able to kind of be able to keep that. And I think you can be able to turn that thing on and off, and you don't always have to be on as far as like killer savage mode, but I think you're on as far as a certain expectation or a level that you expect out of yourself, you know, that you're not going to compromise. I think, to me, a lot of wrestlers are very deeply principled, and some people appreciate that, some people don't. And you know what? I mean, that's kind of life in general, though. But there's a lot of great people in the sport, man, and I'm glad that I've been grateful for being around them. You know, and a guy like TJ, man, he helped me. He made me better. Like I said, when he came in that first year, and you just saw it in his eyes, like he is going after something. It's like, this dude, he's really going after this thing and coming in for a purpose. And like, I'm not just Joe's little brother. You know what? I'll show you. And he did, man. I mean, he had a phenomenal year. I mean, he lost one match in his whole college damn career. He was 98-1 or something crazy. I mean, that's incredible. So yeah, I mean, but yeah, you keep up with those guys, and as anything, you know, you move apart. But I think, to me, as soon as you see guys, to me, it's like right back. You're right back to where you were. Like, you know, you're talking about, oh, you remember this match and this things and those things, and it's like, you remember that training, and just, I think the connection and bond that you have, and that's what I try to tell these guys. The bond that you have is it's second to none, man. I mean, it's absolutely incredible.
Doug Schwab, thank you so much, man. We got it for the folks. Listen, we got a team of guys in here ready to roll right now, and I brought you some gear, Coach. These are for.
And that's the end of Wrestling Changed My Life. We're proudly presented by Spartan Combat. Spartan Combat is a wrestling clothing company who sponsors athletes such as Kyle Dake, Yanni D, David Carr. Go to SpartanCombat.com to purchase gear, or check out their national tournament taking place April in Jacksonville, Florida.